Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome episode. I have brought with me for the... Is this the second time? Was this... I think this is third.
This is the second time.
This is the second time.
Second time, yeah.
Scott Mines. So Scott Mines is he was our resident wizard Icelander DJ, but he's now...
Hey, I'm still a wizard.
You are. You're a wizard coming out with some mad decks. So as you can see here, we've got an Iris Dromai deck that you took along to the you took it to ProQuest. You didn't take it battle hardened, did you?
Yeah, so I took it to the battle hardened weekend, if you like. So I've actually been working on this thing for a long time. For people that follow me personally on the Fab channel, they know that I've been working on this deck for like a month and a half, like maybe a bit longer, prior to Dynasty release. It's kind of like a pet project.
Yeah.
And I always kind of accepted that this deck is going to suck while Ninja is legal. Like, you have good matchups across the board, but Ninja is just so bad for you, so you probably can't play it while Fire is good. So I played Icelander on the Saturday at the Battle Hardened, and of course the top 8 of that event was 5 Oldims and 3 Icelanders. So I was like, well, if there was ever a time to bring out the anti-Guardian, anti-Wizard deck, this is probably the time to do it. And the results kind of paid off in spades. So
it did. I saw this come up when I was watching this on Tabletop 24. Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah,
that's Tabletop 24 was streaming it, and I saw your name come up, and I was like, "Sweet, I've got a little bit of time. I'm gonna watch this." And I was like, "Dromai, okay, all right, sure, Mr. Icelander boy, let's see what you got."
And just because I get typecast doesn't mean I can't play other things as well, you know.
I watched this play out, and I was just like, "Okay, Iris, this is going to be fun, at least."
Mm-hmm.
And this is what this video is all about. This was stupid. This was crazy. This was so much fun. The second,
really fun.
The second I saw it, I was like, right, come, bro, come here. Come on, let's get on this stage.
He's not kidding. Like I get a message from Hamish. It's just like, dude, that deck is so sick. He's like, get on the channel. I'm like, I can do it.
We've got to talk. We need a counseling session here. What is this? It's so cool.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So, in a nutshell, what you've been nailing around this deck. Let's talk a little bit about it and why this deck is so exciting and cool. Because you can probably see we've got Iris of Reality. Just explain yourself.
Sure. So when I first started working on this deck, the goal for me was to find a way to not give Dromai more good matchups. I think like the way that she's designed, fundamentally, you're going to be weak in to go wide aggro, regardless of the card pool that you play.
Yeah.
So the goal was to not lose my good matchups, but make the bad matchups not suck quite as much.
Right.
So that if I win 2 out of 10 of them instead of 1 out of 10, that's a significant increase, and that's what we want to do. And that was the plan originally. What actually kind of happened is that we got ourselves closer to 50-50 against the Rune Blades, which were typically not great for normal Dromai, because Movrian Skies hits a dragon and you don't really have a good time in those kind of spots. So we're way better into the Rune Blades than normal Dromai is. But I couldn't fix Fi. I tried desperately just about everything to try and fix that matchup, and it's still just awful. Even without Mask of Momentum triggers, it's really hard to win that game. But you are still better into them because Mask of Momentum isn't a real threat. You don't have dragons to hit as a result as you play over the course of the game. But what actually happened was that I created a list that essentially cannot lose to Icelander and Oldhim. Those 2 matchups are phenomenal. So, I mean, you can check the data yourself. It's a little convoluted now that people have played it on Talishar themselves, but heading into the ProQuest weekend, I was something like 28-0 into Oldhim and like 20-something 0 into Icelander. I had not lost those matchups with the deck. It felt incredible. And it was like, well, okay, I know where I'm at. I can 50-50 my way against Dash, Icelander, and Oldhim, and if I play the Gem Lottery, if I ever hit a Ninja, the event is over, and I cannot win the event if that's the case. So, when the ProQuest kind of started up, and it was like, well, there's less people on fire than yesterday because it did really bad yesterday, and it did really bad yesterday. I was kind of sitting there with the 2 deck lists in my hand, and I was like, I'm making a choice. We're gonna play the Gem Lottery. We're gonna try and dodge the ninjas. That's basically what it was all about.
So in a summary, how did your sort of we'll talk a little bit about the deck and like just the like how the strategy of this deck kind of, you know, what the game plan is with this deck. But how was your matchups if this is a bit of a, you know, I don't want to see this guy, I don't want to see fire, I don't want to see ninjas, I prefer to see this. What was the journey like?
Sure. So hilariously, I actually didn't have the best matchup spread. I actually got quite unlucky with the matchups I played along the way, which makes for an even better story. So hilariously, I lost round 1. I actually lost the very first round of the event.
Here we go. That's a story.
Of course, yeah. So I lost to Jonas Benzati, the Danish national champion on Dash.
Right.
In the very first round of the event. And Jonas did what he had to do. I think Dash is very 50-50 depending on how they choose to play the matchup.
Yeah.
If they turn over Pistol and Chamber, you're in some trouble because they can hit you and then clear auras. But if they turn over the Hanabi Blaster, Teklo Pounder, Hyperdriver style stuff, you just fatigue them. The matchup is really, really easy. You can just block for days. Jonas did the former, unfortunately, equipped himself with a pistol and got lucky in a spot where he had to, hit a Teklo core off of a BIOS update, and then had a 22 damage maximum velocity turn and just put me in the ground.
Right.
Which is Dash. That's fine.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, off to a bad start. Probably fucked this up somewhere. Didn't lose again. Didn't lose again until the top 8, which is obviously the kind of perfect way to go. So we hit a Rhinar in round 2. That matchup's pretty good. They have to get lucky on scab skins to actually have a chance against you.
Yeah.
Opponent eventually rolled a 1 and died shortly afterwards. Kind of the way that it goes. We then got the round 3 feature match, which I think you saw on camera, which was against Dash again.
Yeah.
Opponent turned over Hanabi Blaster and Hyperdriver and just got fatigued.
Yeah.
Plan basically played out exactly how we expected it to. Round 4, we played against the Kano, which I think is actually the best possible matchup for this deck.
Yeah, because there's
you have Sand Covers, Oasis Respites, Prismatic Shields, Auras, just AB3, just fucking nothing they can do. My opponent pumped an Aether Wildfire up to 8 and it did 0.
Oh my god.
Let's give you an idea of how that one goes.
Right.
Which is kind of great. We moved into round 5. We played against the Viserai. Viserai is pretty 50-50 from the experience I've played against it so far. I guess I think I got quite lucky, truth be told. I think if my opponent sequences things a little better, gets a little luckier on their Sonata, I'm probably in a bit of trouble in that game. But thankfully for me, things kind of broke the way that I wanted them to break. And we get there over the line. Really close one, end the game on a couple life each. Really fun game.
Yeah.
We then hit an Oldhim for the first time, and it's a cakewalk. It's actually the person who won the day before. That's Fred Bird.
Right.
Known Gwent streamer. We finally hit him in round 6. He's like so prepared for the Dromai matchup, and I turn over Iris, and he just has no idea what my cards do. So he's having to like read everything as we go, and it's a real cakewalk. The game's he plays it very well, to be honest, for someone who clearly wasn't familiar with what's going on. But I'm never in any danger just because the matchup is so good.
Yeah.
Round 7, I finally lose the lottery. I hit the Fi. And I'm like, God damn it, I lost round 1. This is probably it. The dream's over. We don't have a chance. And it's actually against a good friend of mine, Paul Wright, who has been practicing Fi in Manchester for a while now and getting better and better with that deck.
Yeah.
And I'm blessed to say we played one heck of a game that comes right down to the wire. It's one of the closest Fi games I've ever played. And Paul makes the emotional decision to want to see me top 8 this event with Irish Dromai and concedes. Which I cannot thank him enough for. We had a very emotional moment, obviously, at the time when it happened. It was an incredible game. He tells me that it was probably a lava burst in his hand. I have no reason to think he's lying. But he chose to let it go, let me play my winning in to try and top 8 this event with this deck.
That's very kind of
full credit to Paul. Was a lovely gesture, and he knows that. It had me in tears at the time. I was in bits. And then we get our winning in. Of course, pressure's on, and we get paired up into the undefeated player who hasn't lost that day at the very top of the event, and it's an Oldhim. And I'm like, okay, we're good. We're all right. We've got it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
that's the one that that's the one that I tuned into to catch when I jumped in and just went. The hell's
I think you're misremembering because I didn't play that matchup on camera. I played the quarterfinals on camera.
I must have. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so quarterfinals was actually against Bravo. Was Tom Harl on Bravo in the quarterfinals, who had no idea what was happening
yes,
either.
that was the one I was watching, so I'm ahead.
Yeah, it was a bit of a landslide. And then unfortunately for me, one of the only two Fis who made the cut won their quarters, and I hit the Fi in the semis. They are the only Fi left in the event. It's two Icelanders, a Fi, and me. And if I can avoid the Fi in the top four, I'm good.
It's just the way it is,
I finally lose that flip, and this time it's not a friend of mine, so I can't get through it, and I get pasted firmly up a wall shortly afterwards. So yeah, lost in the top four there, unfortunately.
Oh no, dude! I mean, just it sounded like an amazing journey to go through, and just hearing that it's just really awesome. So one of the things, what is it? So now we know your journey. How does this deck operate? And from looking at Iris of Reality, it would be safe to say that we are leveraging this awesome card here called Burn Them All. Is that and using the tools of Illusionist to its full, but why? But we're using, I don't know. Explain.
Okay, so you're kind of halfway there. This deck does one of two things depending on the matchup that you're playing into. If you play into the aggro players, you need to try and become bad Icelander, basically. You're at a point where your deck is like 36 blues into most matchups at the end of the day, and you're just playing the most efficient red attacks you can play off of a 2-card hand. So you're going to be looking to defend yourself pretty often with 2 cards, and then throw a 2 for 8 or a 2 for 7, or use your tunic resource on a metamorph, or 2 cards for a Findle's Fighting Spirit, and just keep trying to win the turn cycle by presenting more damage they'd never want to block, and using 2 cards of your own to block and keep life totals equal on the way down. That's usually how you win those matchups. It's not the best plan, but it gives you a way to win them overall. So you're not looking to go into the Aura game plan against aggro, because for the most part, the longer the game goes, the worse it gets for you. You leak too much damage. In the slower matchups, however, you basically want to do your best Prism impression. You want to try and set up a majority of auras to the best of your ability. You usually want to try and get to the point where you're about 3 or 4 on board where possible. And then every single hand that you have that's 4 blues is presenting 16 damage.
Right.
Because all your auras have go again. So imagine that your control deck where your end game is just swinging 4 Winter's Whales every single turn once your game plan is established. That's basically how it goes. The key, however, is that you break parity with Burn Them All. And this is something that people don't necessarily understand, because they read the card and go, there's no fucking dragons in this deck, what does this do? Why is it here? It's a blank piece of cardboard, doesn't do anything, right? Well, first of all, it's an aura, which matters. It has go again, which matters, so I can actually just play it out and attack with it straight away. It blocks 3, which matters. And more importantly, your opponent cannot attack it. Which means if you have a Shimmers of Silver in play, it attacks for 5, then it attacks for 6, then it attacks for 7, and they can't get rid of it until you choose to let it go. And at that point, you're trading a blue for 8 damage, 9 damage, 10 damage, and your opponent has to stop and give up a turn to get rid of Shimmers to stop that from happening. And so if they do that, now you have a full hand of blues to attack for 16 damage again. Sometimes 20 damage, because the Burn Them All already has counters on it by the time this has happened. And it's too late. They can't survive this amount of pressure every turn from the auras that are already in play and get rid of them.
I saw that and immediately went, I'll burn them all right, fair enough. And then when you attacked, and you had +1 counter on it, I went, oh yeah, cool, man. Oh yeah, that's an aura. Oh yeah, shit! You can't get rid of that. He's like, you can't get rid of that.
The amount of people that I attacked with Burn Them All, and they went, "Yeah, I'll take the arcane." I'm like, there is no arcane. That's not what it's in the deck for. There are no dragons.
I was having a good time watching this and seeing this go off.
I was having a good time playing it. It was great.
So why? That's my why did you go down this route of Irish Reality? What brought this idea to do this rather than the dragon route?
Yeah, so we kind of covered this briefly a little bit earlier on, but the goal when I was originally building this was very much to try and make your bad matchups better. And when I started doing that, it became very obvious that the dragons were actually a bit of a liability in those matchups. They're obviously very good in the matchups where Dromai thrives, but the reason you were losing to Fi, losing to Runeblaze is because you could always hit with Movrian Skies, you could always trigger Mask Momentum. So the first natural thought in my brain was to go, how do we play a Dromai deck without any dragons in it? What does that look like? Is there a viable option? And of course, you start exploring your other options when you don't need the Storm of Sandakai anymore as a weapon, and Iris never really found a home.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that it was like, well, we know Prism was really good into Guardian and Wizard. That was obviously very much what it preyed on. Those are two of the best decks right now. How about we just try and be Prism? And that's roughly how we ended up this.
So that's cool. I love the fact that it was there is a there's another way. And I remember saying this a long time ago. I think when it first came around, I was like, when someone figures out the other thing that it could be, then this is what. But for ages, and we all saw Jamie Faulkner's deck from Utrecht, and I think that really just paved the way of this is what the deck is, and it become that for a little while. There was a bit of an alteration where it's just like this red deck, just go real fast.
Yeah. We're still seeing a fair bit of that as well.
Yeah.
This I think this if you're interested in a hero that's like constantly evolving, Dromai is the hero for you. Like we obviously had Jamie's stuff from Nationals. We had like the red line aggro decks.
Yeah.
We've then got people now working on like versions with Flame Call Awakening that are using the flame scale furnace to pay for 2-cost attacks to follow like a Ravenous Rabble and stuff like this. And then you've got me over here with blues. Which is just a completely different aspect in itself. So if you want a hero that you can just play in so many different ways, like Dromai is a really good example of that.
That's awesome, and that's what made it really, really exciting. So what I want to do is we'll just briefly go over some of the cards and the choices. I think what we'll do is to start with what seems to be pretty obvious, which is the auras, right? So as you explained with the Burnemals, you've got Haze Bending, Passive Mirage, Shimmers of Silver, and Pierce Reality as well. Yeah, I mean, I'm now looking at that. It seems to make a bit of sense. You've got some with Ember Moors and so on. In fact, you've got quite a few things. So
there is quite a few attacks.
Yeah, there is actually quite a few. I'm looking at it again. Oh yeah, there is actually quite a few attacks that can blow up on. So that is Iris. These are the cards that are in there because Iris is, that's the weapon, basically.
Those are kind of like they're definitely a package. The deck obviously has to be primarily blue heavy for facilitating Iris, but you have to also have enough reds to fuel Burn Them All, which makes for a very interesting deck building exercise as to how you can pay for everything when you want to and not have your Burn Them All die randomly when you would really rather keep it alive. So the blue auras, you play them all because they are blue auras. They are mostly going to be your win con in the longer games. They are, it doesn't really matter in the case of Passing Mirage and Pierce Reality what the text is. They are mostly there to be a blue aura.
Yeah.
But they do come up. Passing Mirage obviously relevant against like Guardian and Brute and stuff. Pierce Reality occasionally means that you send in a Metamorph for 9 off your Tunic and you just feel like a god because one card should never present 9 damage. It's just obviously just a completely ridiculous rate.
Yeah.
But Haze Bending and Shimmers of Silver are the important ones. They are the ones that you really do want to usually stick around or establish early. Shimmers just demands an answer from the opponent. If they leave it in play, they don't ever win a turn cycle ever again because it gets out of hand pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And Haze Bending just replaces itself, so you're always able to attack with the aura that it leaves behind after the turn is done, so you're always going to be able to keep other auras safe and have a weapon for sure the following turn, which kind of makes it a bit more of a premium than the other two.
Nice. Oh, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Now, we'll move over to the attacks. Basically, I'll start off with the pretty simple generic ones. E-Strike and Findhouse Fighting Spirit. I imagine they're in there because it's again 7 real low cost attack.
Yeah, so we can bundle this chunk of reds together, all of them in fact, into the kind of same like package. Truth be told, so we have a core in this deck of 48 cards, means you're boarding in 12 basically every matchup.
Yeah.
So you should be looking to get yourself to a point where your deck looks about 24 reds to 36 blues in basically every matchup. That's the kind of magic number you want to keep a 1% chance of drawing a non-all red hand. So you're only going to draw 4 reds 1% of the time. And that you can afford to keep Burn Them All alive and pay for stuff with Iris. So you're looking to be as close to 24-36 in basically every matchup as you can.
Sure.
So as a result, we've got 15 reds in the core, and we tend to board in 9 more alongside 3 blues in nearly every matchup.
All right.
So for a red to make it in the core, it's got to be really good because the space for reds is pretty limited in terms of what you can afford to gain your deck. So Burn Them All has to be there. Obviously, we've talked about it in depth a few times already.
Yeah.
Leaves you with 12 spots to work with attacks. So this was very much the part of the deck that got built when we were looking to try and beat the aggro matchups, and we were looking for the red cards we throw to try and race in those spots all of the time. If they can block 3, it makes them much better, but if it doesn't, and it's sometimes still worth it, that's fine. You'll notice that they basically all block 3 in a way, because Fighting Spirit does, kind of, technically.
Yeah.
You know, in most of the spots. So Enlightened Strike obviously just lets you play a 2-card hand most of the time to go just, you know, bottom a card, come in for 7, but it also gives you the flexibility to, you know, come in for 5, play an aura. That comes up a fair amount, as you would expect it to a lot of the time, but it's just a really good 2-card hand, and that's what all of these attacks are about. E-Strike is kind of one of the more important ones in the aggro matchups, because you will draw hands that go E-Strike Fighting Spirit, or E-Strike Metamorph, and really like push like 14 damage without any auras on the same turn.
Yeah.
Fiendal's Fighting Spirit, the more I play this card, every deck I play this card in, if you have enough blues to consistently play it, it's cracked. The card is just ridiculous, which is insane to say for a generic, but you're just attacking for 8 damage off of a 2-card hand every time, because you're always behind in this deck. As things stand, which just make it way above rate. The key to remember with this deck is every card in your deck is worth 4 damage. It's either worth 4 on your opponent or worth 4 by pitching it to attack with an aura. Right. So if we're sending big red attacks, they have to do 8 damage because it's costing us 2 cards to do it.
Right. Okay.
And that's where we want to be.
Yep.
So Phantasmal Haze meets that criteria. It's a 2-card hand that attacks for 8 in basically every spot. And it works really well with Phantasmal Footsteps, because if your opponent pops it, it makes a shield afterwards, and you can pitch a blue and attack with the shield. Which comes up as well. So you can actually push 12 off of Phantasmal Haze in spots if your opponent wants to pop the attack that you're going to send. And then last but not least, you've got Miraging Metamorph, which obviously is just broken. The card is ridiculous. It blocks 3, attacks for 7 off of a Tunic resource, basically always. It is the single best 1-card hand in the game, because you just play it off your Tunic basically always. And your opponent never wants to give you another Haze Bending, never wants to give you another Shield, another Burn 'em all, any of these things. They always just start the game with 21 less life, because they just let it hit them in the face whenever it turns up and comes. So you'll find that you have so many turns that are like attack with aura, attack with aura, attack with aura, Tunic resource 7.
I know.
And how do you keep up with that? The card is just disgusting on rate. And of course, in a pinch, it's just a 2-card hand that plays for 7 damage as well, even without your Tunic resource and anything like that. So those are the 15 reds that make the core, because they all meet the criteria we need them to meet.
Yeah, fantastic. Is it worth, do you want to mention some of the other red cards that you got in here that you slap in the sideboard, why they, like, for, I suppose it's a Raised Face and Phantasm, are they there for specific reasons, or is it kind of...
They are. So Erase Face is definitely more of a nudge towards dash, specifically. Right. You need to slow them down a lot of the time, not take too many boosted attacks in a row over the course of a turn, maybe stop them being able to hit you and clear an aura at the same time.
Yeah.
The card just thankfully has a little bit of extra splash damage in the Dromai Mirror and Viscerai, so it's not just like blank everywhere else.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. Phantasmaclasm is this is the best Phantasmaclasm deck you have ever seen. Again, following the same rules that we kind of had before. You want to send 2 cards for 8 damage. Well, this is 2 cards for 9 damage. It's actually slightly bigger than that.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you can do some silly things like ripping the Revel in Runeblood out of the Viscerai player's hand, so their hand doesn't do anything on the way back. You take away the non-attack action damage. My favorite one actually was turning off maximum velocity against Dash and taking away the 0 to 60, so they don't have enough things to attack you with. To get maximum velocity off as a result of it. So the text actually matters too. It doesn't just clear poppers. It does disrupt your opponent's turn and just be like, okay, well, 2 cards, 9 damage, block this, or die, I guess.
So those are still slotting into the same sort of role as what these other red cards are going to do. So
so as we kind of talked about before, you bought 9 reds. So you find like in the matchups where you're trying to be aggressive, the Phantasmaclasms make the cut. In the matchups where you're trying to be defensive, it's more the Sand Covers, the Oasis Respites, this kind of stuff instead that fill that slot for reds.
Sure, that's brilliant. That's cool. Well, let's go through. You got Phantasmal Haze. Let's go through your blue attacks. I like it how Brother in Arms is it's an attack. If you say
Brothers in Arms is busted in this deck as well. It is completely crackers.
Well, let's go with that then. Let's start with Brother in Arms.
Yeah, so we'll start with Brothers and we'll work through the blues, kind of explain why each one that isn't an aura is there, because you do have a lot of choice in that department as to what blues you play. Right. For the most part, it's just important they block 3. In most cases, because they're either going to be pitched to attack with an aura or they're going to be defending you. So them blocking 3, or in Brothers' case 4, is very important when you're not using it to attack. But Brothers in Arms plays exceptionally well with Phantasmal Footsteps to turn a 2-block aura into 3 block of block.
Yes.
Because you could pay for Brothers and pay for Phantasmal Footsteps, gain an extra 3 block off of the blue you pitched.
Yeah.
So it turns your block 2s into block 3s by itself. Then sometimes you get to even pair it with Oasis Respite.
Yeah.
And you use all 3 of those resources to prevent significantly more damage than a blue should be able to do so.
I can see your
first place.
I can see your Icelander-ness coming through on this now. So I'm like, oh, okay, because because you're using your resources as part of your blocking mechanic, and that's basically the Phantasmal Footsteps allow that to happen. What do you do?
Exactly.
What are you doing with these other resources that you've just paid to do this? So
you don't want to let them go to waste. No, you've got to find a way to utilize them.
Yeah.
And of course, in a pinch as well, you also just use your Tunic resource for this all the time as well. And at that point, it's just a blue defense reaction that pitches to attack for 4 and also blocks for 4.
Yeah.
Which at that point, that card is just completely unreasonable.
Yeah, it's got so many,
just completely insane.
Okay.
So it's incredible in this deck. The blue Phantasmal Hazes and the blue Embermore Centerpies. We'll kind of pair them together.
Okay, sure. Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
does that work?
No, that's fine. I was looking at the Constellus Mirage.
The Coalescence Mirage.
A card I've never seen.
Next. You're all good.
Cool. Right, you go.
That one comes next. You're all good. So we'll go through Haze before I don't look at it again, but we'll pair it with Embermore. These are basically the blues that let you do your shitty Guardian impression in a pinch.
Okay.
If you draw a hand that you have no auras in hand, and an aura's in play, it's all blue, you've got no reds, they've cleared your auras. They're the best things you can do off of a blue for the most part. They are 6s that you can come in no spot, which is not embarrassing. Phantasmal Haze makes a shield if it gets popped, which again ends up being pretty relevant alongside Footsteps and stuff like that as well. And Embermore making an Ash does actually come up because you have Sand Cover in your sideboard.
Yes.
So every now and then you need ways to actually facilitate Ash, and it getting popped is secretly one of those. So they're, again, mostly blue block 3s, but they let you do a bad Guardian impression if your hand just kind of sucks.
Sure.
Which is why they make the cut. Coalescence Mirage.
Hooray! I was looking at this card this whole time going, I remember it once in a pack.
It got printed. Like I think I've seen this one before. Yeah. So this is, again, for the most part, a blue block 3.
Right, I thought so.
In most cases. But the text ends up being relevant often enough that it ends up making the cut over some of the other options you can have. But if you're looking to replace a blue in this deck for something else that you love, this is probably the place to start, is in this slot. It is easily the most flexible one.
So what does this... Read it out, because I'm sure a lot of people who are going to see this going to go, what does this do again?
So this is a 5 power attack that blocks 3 that has Phantasm. But if it's destroyed, you may put an Illusionist aura that costs 0 from your hand into the arena.
Perfect.
The trick on this card when you attack with it, which does come up, is you will put the Fear of God into your opponent if you have at least 2 cards in your hand. Because there are a number of spots you'll go attack for 5, they'll pop it, you'll go cool, pay for Footsteps, put an aura into play off of this, play another aura, pass.
Yeah.
And I've gained 2 0-cost auras off of my attack because you blocked it and popped it. It's a real corner case scenario. It doesn't come up very often. It is mostly a blue block 3 that is pretty flexible in how you want to build the deck. But when it does come up, oh buddy, do people not have a good time?
I can imagine. I can imagine in the when the stars align away from.
It happened in the PQ. I did it against the Rhinar player where I went Mirage. They popped it with any of their million 6s.
Yeah.
And I put a haze bending in and then played another haze bending, and it was like, well, whichever one of these you remove, it's 2 shields. Good luck. It's like I have no way of playing 2 haze bendings out if that doesn't happen. So I actually created a scenario that was kind of nuts.
That's really cool, and I love to see these cards that I've just got. Like you read them and you do go, oh man, that is really cool, but it's
when
like
does
in
it
the
ever
world
happen?
of Prism. When does it ever happen? And Prism doesn't need it because whatever. I'm sure there'll be some illusionist that comes out that you'll probably go, oh, perfect. But I'd love to see that it's in here. It's in Dromai. Yeah. It's like, what the hell? What's this doing?
It is, yeah.
And I love it.
We then got 9 more blues in the core, and they all kind of fall into the same category. They are Doombreaker Centerpie, Spears of Surrealty, and the Sweeping Blow.
Yeah.
These are all kind of similar in the sense of sometimes you'll be low on auras and you have a 4 blue hand your opponent left you with after clearing an aura, and you don't have an awful lot to do with it. So them having go again is the important part here. It means that you can still do things with your blues if you have no auras in play. They can still be used as cards before you send a big red attack or something like this. Spears and Doombreaker mostly are just 3-power go again. Sweeping Blow gets the nod because it can make an Ash for you for sand cover in those matchups. So that's kind of why it gets the nod there as well. So.
Awesome. I remember sitting there thinking, Doombreaker Senpai is Spears of Reality, pretty much, but with the added text.
It is the same card with a different, like, you make an Ash if it gets popped, which again occasionally comes up. But if anyone's popping a 3-power Doombreaker, you've probably got worse problems at that moment in time. Then it feels
like it's Illusionist's head jab. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I have to pay 1 for it. You know, it's not quite as good.
Like... Okay, so that's kind of your. So these cards are in your core deck, right? Then
these are played in basically every matchup. There's a few corner case exceptions, like Red Phantasmal Haze gets removed against Guardian because they're just going to pop it all the time.
Yeah.
So you don't play it there. So there's a few real corner case situations where the core changes, but in nearly every matchup, those 48 cards make the cut.
Sure. So when we went through the red attacks side of things on this sideboard, and you can see that with the Oasis Respite, Sand Cover, and Sink Below, they're your defensive card package that you put in. Should we go through some of these other cards?
These end up being like less of a package, to be honest, in Oasis Respite, Sand Cover, and Sink Below's case. You tend to pick the ones that favor the matchup best.
Right.
So you're going to end up in spots where Oasis Respite covers a Rosetta Thorn, so it ends up being a bit more impactful against Runeblade for that reason. Sink Below ends up being a bit better against Fi because you care about stopping mounting anger and snatches and stuff like this as on hit triggers, so you can be a bit more flexible. Prismatic Shield is the spicy one, I think, for a lot of people when it comes to defensive tools, because this card is secretly very, very strong and not very often a defensive tool at all. It exists for a few reasons. If your opponent passes the turn on turn 0, you make 12 powers worth of attackers, which is disgusting. It does come up if they just want to filter and they're like, okay, passed. You're like, sure, make some shields. Fuck you, I guess. 12 damage, which is great. But more importantly, it actually serves a really niche role in the Oldhim matchup where it lets you beat their ice reaction. So what ends up happening in a lot of spots against Oldhim is they'll let you keep a 3-card hand, assuming you're just going to attack with 3 auras.
Right.
To like send 3 blues.
Yeah.
So their plan will be to, either take the first 2 or soak up some damage and then ice react the second one to take your last card away.
Yeah.
So that you can't attack for 4 more.
Right.
If you've got a Prismatic Shield loaded, the blue doesn't get put on top of your deck. You just make 3 more shields and then keep going. And they've cost themselves a card from ice reacting you in that spot to have less to send back at you, usually meaning they can't remove the shields immediately afterwards anyway, because they've blocked so much damage to try and not take aura damage. So you've then got auras in play and shields in play they can't deal with at the same time. So
that's cool. I take it at the very, when we were saying about the very start as well, if they pass up and you play Prismatic Shield, it's got to be one of those things. It's got slightly matchup dependent, because if you pass up and you play that and you made 3 shields, they'll go, cool, I'll attack and get rid of the shields.
I should say the matchups you're playing Prismatic Shield in, it's either a defensive tool for something like Kano, because the shields actually matter at preventing arcane damage, or you're not going to be worried about that happening to you, basically, because you're going to be spending 2 cards on turn 0 to make 3 shields, meaning you should have 2 cards left to defend them with, and all the matchups you're playing them in, your opponent should never really be like sending a huge amount of damage at you on turn 0 that you can't stop with 2 cards.
Yeah.
Or you're in that spot where it's like, well, okay, if they choose to just go send a Spinal Crush at you because you made shields, it's like, cool, I'll block 6, the shields eat the other 3. We broke even anyway, and I got through a Spinal Crush. It doesn't matter in that regard. The matchups you're playing it in, there's not very much risk of that happening to you, but it's definitely something to be mindful of, because of course you can get a bit excited and be like, before you pass, make some shields. Your opponent's like, sure, fuck it, 7, and you're like, oh shit. You don't want to do that. You got to be mindful of what your opponent wants to do. But especially against like the matchups like Oldhim, it's like they want to like make a tectonic playing like surge against you sometimes. So they'll use a card on that on turn 0, and then you'll be like, sure, you're gonna send the hammer at me, so make 3 shields. I have 6 block. Like, either give up your arsenal so that you don't have Crown of Seeds active, or leave the shields alone. What do you want to do?
Sure. So you've this round's on me and Unmovable. They're probably there for different reasons. Well, it definitely seems that way. This round's on me. Fi.
Yeah, so this round's on me ends up coming in against more of the aggressive matchups. It's quite good against Dash. It's quite good against Fi for kind of knocking a point of power off of every attack that comes through.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the card you give them doesn't give them more damage than it prevents over the course of the game. And the card you get off of this rounds on me is often worth 4 damage by attacking with an aura later, or in the same turn. You can often this rounds on me off of your tunic to get an extra attack in with another aura that you didn't have a blue to pay for before.
Yeah.
That will come up sometimes. But yeah, it's mostly an anti-aggro tool. You'll find that there are a number of matchups where you play some of them to keep the blue count where you want it. We obviously talked a little bit earlier about keeping the balance of like 26-34 in basically every matchup.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're like, well, I don't really have a blue that I wanted to board in. Like unmovable's not good here. But I want to keep that number where I want it to be. And in those spots, at the very worst, it's a blue block 3. So it's never actually that bad. And it keeps your numbers where you want it to be, basically.
Nice one.
So mostly an anti-aggro choice. You do play sometimes to keep the numbers steadfast.
Awesome. And unmovable. Blue.
Yeah. So I found myself wanting another defense reaction in the deck to go hyper defensive in the matchups where that was the goal. I'm blocking with 3 cards, playing an aura, blocking with 3 cards, playing an aura until I have a board set up. But I couldn't afford for that defense reaction to be another red in a lot of cases because it screwed with the numbers. And I needed to be able to get rid of it in spots where I didn't want to defend anymore. My opponent left me with 3 cards, stuff like that. So if I play the blue unmovable, I can pitch it to attack with an aura still. Which means it's always going to let me do that at the very least, and it covers all the important on-hit triggers from your big Guardian-style decks and Arachnes and stuff like this that you might care about, your Arsenal being removed and stuff like this. It covers all the important hit triggers while still just being a blue I can pitch to pay for an aura if I don't want it.
There you go. That's cool. that's sick. Now your equipment.
Yes.
With I'll tell you what. We'll start in the order really. Crown of Reflection.
Sure. Yes. So I'll kind of. I know you wanted to go in order, but I'll group the 3 AB together.
Go for it.
Because for the most part, they are AB. You're looking to play AB3 into the matchups where like Wizard, because you have so many blues. So having the ability to spend a blue on preventing 3 damage just kind of makes sense.
Is Silent Stilettos just is a bit of a flair?
Yeah, it's basically AB plus. Like the ability basically never really comes up on Stilettos. Crown is a bit different though. The ability on that one does come up. There are 2 really cool tricks you can do with it that people don't necessarily have in mind. So if you have a haze bending in play, you can actually attack an extra time on a turn where you break Crown, have it blow up the haze bending, which makes you a shield. If I attack with the haze bending first, I can then cash in the Crown, kill the haze bending, and have another attacker. To carry on going down the end of the turn that I didn't have before because of the shield that gets made.
Yes.
So you actually can suddenly have an extra aura to attack with that people didn't really expect you to have.
Yeah.
It comes up. It comes up all the time. In a similar vein, when Kano tries to go off against you or Icelander tries to Stormstride as a spell against you, it can cover the extra point. So if like they Stormstride as like a yellow Ice Vein,
right,
or something like this, you can theoretically break an aura to make a shield if haze bending is in play to cover the extra point.
Right.
If that's something that you're worried about.
So you can. It's the interactions of Crown of Reflection and haze bending are the 2.
Specifically.
They're the team, effectively.
Correct. And it can give you a surprise aura out of nowhere that your opponent didn't realize you had available on the table, be that for attacking or defending.
Cool. That's really cool. I love it.
It's a sweet interaction. Yeah, I love it. So.
And then Mage Master Boots.
Mage Master Boots. So these are the feat that you play in matchups where Phantasmal Footsteps is basically a blank card.
Right.
So matchups where you don't intend on sending big Phantasm attacks, so you don't have to worry about saving them. And matchups where you're not looking to block on hits with Phantasmal Footsteps, so you don't have to worry about snatches, you don't have to worry about anything like that.
Yeah.
They're just not going to do anything. They're going to sit there and be blank. So what we do with Mage Masters instead is we have actually a few things this can do. First of all, in a pinch, it makes an Ash. You can pitch a red to it, filter through it, and make an Ash if you desperately need one for sand cover. Yeah. That for the first time that ever came up was during the PQ, and I was fucking glad that it did. Yeah. Because I was very, very desperate for an Ash at the time, which was great. But the main reasons it's here, you're going to do a small number of things. You're either going to try and turn 0 2 blue auras in the matchups where people struggle to deal with them. So you're just going to go crack it, play haze bending, play pierce reality, pass.
Yeah.
And you're already ahead. They shouldn't be able to remove 2 in the same turn unless they are Scabskin Leathers or something like high octane, something like this. If that doesn't happen and you don't open 2 auras on your turn 0, You should be trying to save this to pair Shimmers of Silver and Haze Bending, or Haze Bending and Haze Bending together.
Yeah.
Because they are the ones that are much harder to remove, and you want to make sure that if your opponent hits Shimmers, you get a shield from the Bending as well. So it gives you a guaranteed way to make sure you have 2 auras at some point in the game. Because Shimmers and Haze Bending exist.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, you will either turn 0 the 2 auras, or you will save it until you combine Haze Bending with one you care about, so your opponent can never remove them both at the same time.
It's really cool, man. That's so cool. This now while we're dancing around the equipment slots now,
sure.
We've got Crown of Providence. Yeah, it's Crown of Providence, right?
So Crown is actually surprisingly powerful in this deck.
It's surprisingly powerful, full stop.
It's surprisingly powerful everywhere. Yeah, the card's pretty good. But this deck, people might find this really weird, but this is the only deck I think I've ever played in Flesh and Blood where you basically don't use your arsenal at all.
Right. Okay.
Right? Because if you have 1 card left in your hand at the end of the turn, it should either be a blue aura that you're looking to play at the end of a combat chain, or it's worth more as 4 more damage by attacking with another aura.
Yes.
Because it's never going to be worth 4 damage in your arsenal. It's always going to be worth 4 damage if you pitch it and attack with it now.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
So you arsenal very, very rarely in this deck.
Right.
You'll find that for the most part, the only things you arsenal are a red attack if you are looking to block with 3 cards and keep 1 next turn, so you can still send a 2-card hand back.
Yeah.
You will arsenal burn them all if you think if you pitch stack it away, you probably won't get back to it, so that you know you have it available to go. Or you will arsenal a dog crap blue that you got stuck with at the end of a turn, and you will Crown of Providence it away.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have the ability to filter into a fresh card with Crown, because the arsenal is such a flexible zone in this deck.
Yeah.
Like, no word of a lie, I've had games with this deck where I've taken a sand cover that I cannot use and have no ash for currently, arsenaled it for 7 turns, and then played it eventually, and it's changed nothing. Like, over the course of the game, because it's just like, I'll get round to it when I get round to it. I don't have to worry about arsenaling a card. I've always got something to do with that final card.
That's awesome.
And that makes Crown really strong in this deck, because it means that the one time you want to filter something back in, you have a guaranteed way to do it, which is really nice.
Brilliant. And Tunic. Tunic is Tunic. I like it how
it's
now
the
finally
same
we got
problem
there.
as Crown of Providence, really. Same problem as Crown of Providence, really. It's great everywhere, but it does really shine in this deck for a number of reasons too, because you obviously have Brothers in Arms, Phantasmal Footsteps, Oasis Respite, Miraging Metamorph. These cards that are all very powerful off of 1 resource, so you can do them just off your Tunic without any other card. Outside of those situations, it mostly serves as a way to break Frostbite.
Yeah.
You'll find that a lot of matchups where Icelander is taxing you and you want to make sure you don't have to pay 4 for an aura to attack. That's a lot worse than paying 3. The Tunic lets you get around that in a spot where you're worried about that happening, or you need to let a Witness Whale hit you or something like this to still get through that Frostbite and keep the game plan going. So it does a fair bit of that as well.
Nice. And we went through Phantasmal Footsteps quite a bit.
Yeah, we've talked about Footsteps in quite a bit. It's mostly your protection for certain attacks being popped, but it ends up being here primarily as a way to block on hits. Yeah. Like you care about having a piece of armor that you can soak up damage on snatches and mounting angers and stuff like this, or against dash you can stop the gunshot multiple times because they have to break the combat chain to do so, or just stop a massive momentum draw by blocking the Phoenix Flame. That kind of stuff comes up like pretty regularly too. So it's mostly there for those kind of spots.
Wave of Reality.
Here we go. Okay. So
yeah, I didn't even know this was a illusionist card until I saw this, and also I didn't realize I can just click on this, making this bigger. I've now made it. So here we go.
Push the point exclusive in this case. I didn't say this anywhere else, right? You can quote me on this. Your viewers can come and take the piss out of me for the rest of time if they want to.
Go for it.
This is one of the most broken pieces of equipment ever printed.
You heard it here, folks.
You heard it here first, right? Okay.
Explain yourself.
I will. So what I mean by that is in exactly Iris decks. Like it needs to be exactly an Iris deck for that to be the case. But it's way more clickbaity. It's way more clickbaity if I just say one of the most broken pieces of equipment ever printed. Right? Yeah. So if I ignore the text on this card for a moment, let me explain to you what it actually says, and then tell me if you would play this card in your Illusionist deck. Right? Okay. It blocks 2, and on the first turn of the game, it attacks for 4. Do you play that card?
Yeah. Of course you would.
Yeah, I think you do, right?
Yeah.
Pretty good, right?
Plus for 2, attack for 4.
So it's a piece of equipment that's worth 6 damage. That's basically Carrion Husk.
Yeah.
Right, at that point in time, right? Well, that's exactly what this card is. Like, it is preventing 2 damage for you at some point in the game. It breaks on the first damage you take, and the shield itself that it makes will prevent another one at some point over the course of the game. More importantly, though, if you go second and you leak a point of damage and just deliberately take 1, your arms will break, preventing that point of damage, and you will have a shield in play already to attack your opponent with on the very first turn of the game.
There you go. Google, sorry, Google's just probably just
Google's just
Google's even interrupted on this. Even so I know what you mean.
If you take a single point, the arms will break. You have a shield. You already have a shield to attack with on the very first turn of the game. So your first turn then ends up being attack for 4, attack for 8, or ends up being attack for 4, play an aura, Arsenal pass, which are much better turns than you could possibly have without this card.
It's now that you've explained it, because when I first saw this card, I felt like I needed a bit of a wave of reality to work out why is this good. Because it's just like
I now own several cold foil copies of this because everyone was like, "Do you want them for £2?" And I was like, "Yes." Because I think it is very, very good in decks that can abuse the Spectral Shield. And for now, that's Irish Dromai. This is the deck that can really use it as a 4-power weapon that attacks. But we've seen from the cards printed in Dynasty, there are tons of other Illusionist cards on the way that care about controlling a Spectral Shield to give them overpower or to do other stuff later down the line. Yeah. So you will find another Illusionist at some point in time who cares about having that Spectral Shield in play as early as possible, and this lets you do it. And if your opponent doesn't want you to have it, do you know what they do instead? They just pass. Which is also really good for you because this isn't optional. It has to break when you take damage. So if I want it broken, it's gone. So if you don't want it broken, you have to not hit me.
What's kind of wild when you think about it is that when you think of a piece of equipment, it's almost it's a very weird, clever way. And I'll tell you what, I never gave this card much thought and credit when I first saw it. I was like, whatever. But
everyone did.
But it is this weird, like it's this weird version of not. It's not Blade Break. It's not quite Battle Worn, because you go, well, I'm going to take the 1. It did block 1, and then here's another thing in another location of the game board that also will block 1. So it's kind of this. I don't know. It's this incredibly genius way of going, how do we just block 2 damage in some other weird way?
At the very worst, it's going to block you 2 damage. Even if something goes wrong, you don't get to attack with it, you don't get any damage in with the shield, whatever. It's like still an arm piece that blocks 2.
Yeah, it's like Mask of Momentum levels. You know what I mean?
You don't get control over when that breaks, don't get me wrong, because it's obviously not optional. Like, obviously, with something like Shuko, I can block when I want to.
Yeah.
This thing has to go. Whenever I leak damage, it will go. I don't get control over when I save it, which is the downside you pay in exchange for the flexibility of doing the thing with the shield when you do it.
Yeah.
But at the very worst, it's an arm piece that blocks 2. And that makes it like better than Silken Form and Ironhide Gauntlet like already.
Well, there we go, everyone. There we go. This is it. This is the deck. I've had a very fun time listening to this amazing creation that now makes me feel like I want to give this. I want to be an illusionist, man. I want to give this a go. This is so much fun.
If you're sick of losing to Oldhams and Icelanders, I've got the deck for you.
As a Viserai and Bolton player,
yeah, you got it. You just have to accept that if Gem puts you into the 5-player, it's good night. The game is over. To the point where originally I had a Flamescale Furnace in this list to try and help block more in those matchups, and they were just so bad that I used the space on something else. It didn't change enough. So
you've I'd like to just plug this and end this on this point as well. You've been doing some which is not fabricated, but I don't care, right? But you've been doing some amazing work for Marvel's Snap. I just wanted you to have this opportunity to
thank you, dude.
Plug it, man. So what's your channel called?
Yeah, so I currently work for Marvel Snap Zone, who are the single largest fan site for Marvel Snap in the world. We are huge. We publish articles, strategy, deck lists, everything you could possibly want of Marvel Snap related content. And I started this as kind of like a passion thing when working with the guy who owns the site, was interested in the game, wanted to make some content. and it blew up so much that this is now my full-time job. So I am currently over here, 7 days a week, turning out Marvel Snap YouTube content, YouTube videos, editing articles, making thumbnails, this kind of stuff. Because the players want it. So if you are a Marvel Snap fan, I am behind Marvel Snap Zone. Come and say hello sometime, and I'll see if I can't help you out.
It was an amazing sort of discovery when and it's so weird as well because my sister's boyfriend is like saying, and I didn't know he was into stuff, and he's like, oh mate, I'm really into Marvel Snap, and I'm like, oh bros, like you're a small nerd. He's like, dude, this game's sick. Have you checked out Marvel Snap Zone? Like, this is where I get all the stuff. And I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know about this site. Did a little going on for however long we've been doing Marvel Snap, and then out pops, you're doing this? It's you the whole time behind this giant thing.
I had a really funny moment after the event actually, where Tom Harl, who I played in the quarterfinals on Bravo, he messaged me after the event and was like, "Hey man, can I get your deck list? I'm interested in trying the deck for myself." I was like, "Yeah, sure, I can hook you up." And as he goes to send me the details of where to send it to, he opens his Google page and it's HowlineMines' top 10 decks of Marvel Snap as his Google recommendation, like in the like articles to read. And he just sends me a screenshot and goes, "I can't escape you."
No,
like you're everywhere.
I was like that. I was just sitting there going,
and I was crying. I was like, I'm everywhere. I'm just absolutely everywhere.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. So guys, if you're really into Marvel Snap, go check that out. It is the content behind it is fantastic as well. I'm completely hooked on it as my well, it's now your full-time job, so now Fab's becoming the part-time job. Like but I love it. So this is not flesh and blood, but go check this out anyway, because Marvel Snap's also a good game. But this guy is super creative, super like talented in getting.
I had somebody at the PQ call me the mad scientist of England, and
scientist.
I hope it sticks. It's like a name that I actually would love to stick, because I love brewing random crap and winning events with it, and that's very much what I do.
I swear that we've got this. I've got a very quick question to ask, and I know I'm going to end this now, but do you think that some of your Marvel Snap building, when you're making up new, like I take it you're making up new decks and stuff and thinking about pushing the boundaries for decks, did that kind of help when you came into this? Because I know that's only 12 cards, and the creativity of what that Marvel Snap will do, and how do I make this work, and how do I make this work? Did it make you sort of look at this and go, oh, this is, what if I just do this, because I've been mucking around so much with Marvel Snap?
I think I would give that skill to just kind of my history in card games overall, to be honest. I think it's something that the more you do it, the better at it you get. Because I'm now doing it more frequently, that obviously helps. But I've always been someone who does not enjoy playing the best decks. I enjoy figuring out exactly what they're doing and putting something together that disassembles the best decks. And hopefully I can put on a show and intrigue some people with something a bit unique while I do it. And I've been doing that since I started playing Magic the Gathering over a decade ago. It's very much always been my niche. I like to build decks that catch people off guard and attack a established metagame. That's what got me my top 4 with Lexi in Leeds at the Battle Hardened last year. It's what got me the 13th place out of 570 people with Icelander when Prism was legal, and it's what got me to this point now with this deck as well. I love the puzzle. It's all about solving what's happening, because the closer a metagame gets to being solved, the less questions I have to answer, and that's very much what it's all about. I love cracking that puzzle and presenting you with something you didn't think was possible.
Well, you're my aspiration of where I want to try and get to, because I'm in the same same boat as you, where I want to. I don't want to play the meta. I want to play something. I
want to crack it. I want to solve the puzzle.
Yeah, I want to come in. I just want to take people out with something they just didn't expect.
Yeah,
and this when I saw
that was the glory of this deck this weekend. It's like I have people reading my weapon every round, reading the cards I'm playing every round. They have no idea what's happening, but not a single person at the end of that round was like, "Oh, dude, what the fuck? I got so unlucky to get paired into you." People were like, "It's so cool to see something that I haven't seen before." That's challenging a metagame, because I thought it was solved, and I can't tell you how rewarding that conversation is when it happens with you. People are like, you got me, man. That's so incredible, and it's just the best feeling.
Yeah, well, fully deserved, dude, because this is sick. Go have fun with it. Go play with it. It's also an Arsenal pass as well.
I've got some PQs to win.
No, you got some PQs to win. So if you've probably seen this, it's also on Arsenal Pass as well. They've got a full, much more detailed strategy on how to take things on as well.
If you're an Arsenal Pass Patreon, like you can get my sideboard guide, basically. So I gave it to them in the interview that I gave it to. So if you support them and pay for their Patreon, you can grab it over there.
Go check it out. It's totally worth it. They've got loads of other awesome stuff on there. There you go. I know how to plug everyone else's site, but also if you do like what you see here, like and
you
subscribe.
are watching Push the Point, by
the way, you are watching Push the Point.
Yeah, which by the way, I guess I'll get my plug in there for you in return. These guys do great work, and they make the UK fab scene look incredible. And I'm lucky to know all three of them. So if you haven't subscribed to their content and you're here because of my face, make sure you're watching their faces more often than you currently are.
Thank you. If you like beer and chatting crap, you're in the right place. Dude, Scott, thank you so much for taking part, and I'll see you soon. I'm pretty sure I will.
Yeah, we're overdue a drink, I'm sure.
I want big time. Right, sound.